Okay, so this little video is just going to talk just briefly about the differences between prokaryotic and eukaryotic cells, and this is about probably the depth that you really need to go into for this. So, kind of a couple of the key characteristics here. One is prokaryotic cells are smaller, so generally less than 5 micrometers. Micrometers will make sense in a couple of lessons. Eukaryotic cells tend to be larger. I think one is prokaryotic cells are almost always unicellular, so they're just made up of individuals. Okay, while eukaryotic cells can be unicellular, but a lot of times they're multicellular. So think about, you as a person is a collection of trillions and trillions of cells. So that's what we mean by multicellular. So prokaryotic cells have, the key here is membrane-bound organelles, mitochondria, rough ER, smooth ER, vacuoles, Golgi apparatus. These are all membrane-bound. That means the organelles are wrapped in a membrane. So that's for eukaryotic cells. They have membrane-bound organelles. Prokaryotic cells, on the other hand, they have no nucleus. A nucleus is a membrane-bound organelle, or any membrane-bound organelle. So if you think about it, they don't have rough ER, smooth ER, anything like that. That's another key characteristic there. We talked about the DNA being circular without protein, so that idea of that one big loop of DNA that kind of went around like that, right? The DNA linear, in this case, we're talking about chromosomes. They're pieces of DNA. Okay, so that's another kind of key characteristic. The DNA is linear. So the other thing, so the ribosomes are small, and I want you just to, I don't want to see that. So we say the ribosomes here are 70S and the ribosomes here are 80S. That's the key point there. And that just describes the shape and the diameter of them. It's too confusing to, I don't want to go into the exact details because that makes it even more confusing, but just know that prokaryotes have 70S, eukaryotes have 80S. I'll kind of talk a little bit about what that kind of means, but just basically, what it basically means is they're fundamentally different types of ribosomes. Cytoskeleton, I don't really want to use that. This one, don't worry about. So cell division, this is a useful one. So we've talked about this one. With prokaryotic cells, it's binary fission. Okay, so literally the cell kind of splits in half. The DNA copies itself and it splits in half. With eukaryotic cells, it's either mitosis or meiosis, which you might have some familiarity with from previous lessons. So this one, reproduction is always asexual, so this is always makes clones in a sense, and sexual reproduction gives variation, right? So that's why you don't look. If you looked exactly like your mother, exactly like your father, that would be kind of an example of asexual reproduction. So that's the difference there. With metabolic pathways, so kind of the idea here is prokaryotic cells live in all kinds of different environments, massively different environments. They're really well adapted to a whole bunch of different ways. They can live at the bottom of the ocean, they can live in freezing cold. There's lots of different varieties there. So they have lots of different ways to utilize energy and resources. While eukaryotic cells, we can have cell respiration, photosynthesis. The pathways are very common there. So that's kind of the differences there. With this paper here, with this paper, it goes into details about the different things. Some of this goes into more detail than you really need to know. Okay, so these videos kind of focus on that, but you can look at these different ones if you want a bit more information or a bit more context, and they have some other pictures that may or may not help, which may or may not look like something you're going to see on an IB exam. It just varies from place to place. Okay, so I hope that helps with kind of the differences between prokaryotic and eukaryotic cells.